56 years in San Diego down the drain. The Chargers now moving to Los Angeles, where they will play in a 30,000 seat stadium for the season. Yeah, that's it, just 30,000. So, Chargers preview right now. Brennan Albert is here. I'm Adrian Fedque. Let's talk about the move. What do you think? From LA back to LA.
Well, the Chargers are going Chargers go. They are leaving San Diego for LA. I mean, to be fair, the Chargers for years have been that team. Whenever there was a rumor of expansion or relocation, the Chargers said, "Hey, we're up for it. We're into it." And the city of San Diego just didn't really do it. I mean, it's one of those things. You think about dollars and cents. To simply build an NFL stadium, the city always loses money. It just always happens. You don't really make the money that teams think or fans think they do. They lose money on that. So that's tough. So for them moving up to LA, what I like, and I know some people are going to kind of think it's odd, I like the fact that they're going to a really small stadium. And I think that's good because I look at how the Rams did it last year, going to that almost 100,000 seat LA Coliseum stadium, and some of the pictures there look like a ghost town. I think it's kind of cool the Chargers are making this move to a small stadium, let it build. And honestly, the Chargers are a way better team right now than the Rams. So I think for what the Chargers are doing, it makes a ton of sense. Personally, I'm a little bummed because I know a lot of friends of mine who are from San Diego and they love the Chargers and they're really annoyed about it. But the city of San Diego, it's understandable. Hey, financially, I get why you didn't do what you did. So you're moving on to LA now.
How far is San Diego from LA? Do you know?
Ooh, I'm going to say it's about 4.5 hours. Ballpark guess.
So it's not really that close. Okay. All right. So we talked about it pre-show. I mean, the smallest stadium in the league is Oakland's. What's their freaking stadium called? Oakland County Coliseum.
Coliseum.
Just the Coliseum. So they hold 53,000, and that's a 23,000 seat difference. That's pretty crazy.
It is. I think, and I checked that back. I just gave it a quick Google search on my other side. It's about 3 hours from LA to San Diego. Both California traffic, it could take you 5. But the thing that really has me interested in Q and Darren Rovell here, he's going to do an awesome job talking about ticket prices. Simple supply and demand tells us, hey, you have less supply of tickets here. The demand for these prices are going to probably be really high, and it's a pretty good team. It's a much better sell than the Rams, as I mentioned. So I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to work. I'm also curious to see how the fans split in Los Angeles. Is it going to be like how the Dodgers and how the Angels are kind of split by north and south? I assume that's how the answer is going to be for now anyway. But eventually when they're playing on the same field, it might be a little different situation.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into expectations for the season. So this team has only won, 9 games the last 2 years? But there's a lot of people that think the Chargers can be something this year. What do you think?
Well, I would say this. Of any team in the NFL, I don't think there's a team in the NFL who's gotten bitten by the injury bug worse than the Chargers.
Oh, yeah.
Last year, they had 21 guys who had started games for them end up the season on the IR. So that's a massive, massive blow for the Chargers. Personally, this year, I mean, they went 5 wins last year, but I didn't think they necessarily were a 5-win talent team. They're definitely better than that. I think they're going to jump up to 8-8. I don't think necessarily they're going to be a team who's in the playoffs per se, but they're going to be in the hunt. Again, it's a very, very difficult division there for what they have going on. The nice news is they get teams like the Browns, the Jets, the Bills, the Jags, all kind of teams that they have very, very winnable games. And then non-divisional, you add in the Patriots and the Cowboys, 2 teams they're probably going to lose to. And then your Eagles and Giants, both, I think those are 50-50 toss-ups. I think both of those rosters are really even. So I have the Chargers going 8-8, Adrian, just shy of making the playoff, but finishing 3rd in the division.
Okay, I got 9-7, so I'm basically in the same kind of ballpark. I got 3rd in the division, so not going to make the playoffs or anything, but I think definitely a jump. And the reason why, a lot of these young pieces on defense, a lot of good players right now. So Melvin Ingram's really coming into his own as an outside rusher. Obviously, we know about Joey Bosa from last year, 10.5 sacks. So that was outstanding. Jason Verrett is probably the most underrated corner in the league right now. Mm-hmm. I like him a lot. They got Casey Hayward, actually, you could say he could be the most underrated corner in the league too. Mm-hmm. So a lot of underrated players on this defense. What do you think about the D?
Well, I think what's really interesting is, I think back several years ago in the 2000s when it felt like every time the Steelers made a pick, the Ravens quickly ran to the podium and picked the exact same position, of another guy. It was like that mirroring contest where they were trying to outdo their opponent by being themselves. And that's really what we're seeing here in the AFC West, minus the Raiders. Now, the Raiders are the team who's kind of said, hey, we're going to invest. We have Khalil Mack. And they're starting to invest in defense, don't get me wrong, but they have put a little more investment in the offense. While we're seeing the Broncos, we're seeing the Chiefs, and we're seeing the Chargers all doing similar things. I mean, I say Justin Houston, then I can say Von Miller, then I can say DeMarcus, and then I can say Joey Bosa, and then I can say Khalil Mack. And then I can talk about corners, and all of them have really good corners. Maybe the Raiders aren't necessarily at that skill level, but they really mirror each other defensively what they do.
Yeah. Yeah, they led the NFL last year in interceptions. They had 18 of them. Casey Hayward was 7. So,
Yep.
All right, Melvin Gordon. What is he? Is he the 2015 version, or is he the one from last year?
Boy, that's a tough one, Adrian, because Melvin Gordon was the guy even coming into the NFL. The question of him was durability. In 2015, didn't play all 16 games. Last year he did. So obviously, saw a big jump. The other thing that really helped him too was Brandon Oliver in 2015, the guy who kind of stole some of their carries. He was hurt in 2016. So Melvin Gordon became a massive bell cow. He had 254 carries. That's 190 more carries than the guy who was second on the Chargers roster last year. So he got the rock a ton. I'm going to assume that those numbers are not going to be as high because the Chargers aren't going to want to expose him to as much injuries, especially with the Chargers. They seem to not have good luck with injuries. So I don't think he'll have as many touches. I think he won't have as successful as a year, but he'll still have a very damn good year.
Yeah, and the thing that I've noticed in his progression since Wisconsin, he was not good catching balls out of the backfield with the Badgers. A lot of these backs that go to Wisconsin, they're just not used to that sort of thing. But I think he's worked hard on that part of his game, and he's gotten better at it.
Yeah, I mean, 40 receptions last year is certainly respectable for a starting running back in the NFL, especially when you compare it with 254 carries. I mean, that's almost 300 touches right there. That's a ton.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get position by position now. Let's get into Phillip Rivers. Not getting any younger.
35 years young, 14 years in the NFL, and this is when it's really junky, Adrian. When I'm starting to remember, I remember when you were drafted. Now I'm like, oh no, now I'm sounding old. But yeah, I mean, Phillip Rivers isn't getting any younger. The cool thing is about Phillip Rivers though, has yet to miss a start since he became the starting quarterback for the San Diego Chargers.
How about that?
It's
all those injuries, but he never gets hurt.
He never gets hurt, and he's a tough SOB because he gets drilled over and over and over again. Every year he's getting banged up. I feel bad for him. Now he is coming off a big, kind of turnover. He went from 33 to 26 touchdowns. It's a big turnaround right there. So we got to see an improved Phillip Rivers there. But again, if we can protect him, he's shown the ability. He can get it done in the NFL and be an elite level quarterback. Honestly, Rivers is one of those guys, Adrian. I think he's a fringe Pro Bowler, Hall of Famer. And I think, unfortunately, why some people might say he's not a Hall of Famer is because he might not win a Super Bowl. But let me ask you this, Adrian. You put Phillip Rivers in the Giants, do they still win those 2 Super Bowls? Because I think the answer is yes.
Well, that defensive line helped them win that Super Bowl, and Phillip Rivers is better than Eli Manning, so yeah.
Point made. So I think he's a Hall of Fame level guy, but maybe he doesn't get the talent. So offensive quarterback and running back position, both very good there for the Chargers.
Well, he's got 9 career 4,000-yard passing seasons. At the end of the year, he might be top 10 in passing yards all time. So, I mean, obviously, the game has changed a lot. So, top 10, whatever. But, just see, historically, he is among the best. Quietly, he is. So,
yeah.
There you go.
I'm not saying he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but if Phillip Rivers is getting the Hall of Fame, it's a big disappointment for the NFL.
Yeah. All right. Wide receiver. Now, so there's a bunch of options here, and a lot of guys emerged last year. So you had Dontrell Inman emerge, you had a couple guys emerge, and now you drafted Mike Williams. So pretty stacked crew.
Oh yeah, I mean offensive weapons there. Even the tight ends you throw in here. There's tons of guys.
It's really good too.
Yeah, I mean, last year they had 5 receiver slash tight ends who had at least 40 receptions, which is very, very rare in the NFL to have that much diversity on offense. Again, here's the problem with Keenan Allen. He got an extension, but Keenan Allen has only played 54% of his games since he came in the NFL. 54% of your games is not good enough to get an extension on your NFL career or NFL contract. So that's a big thing to kind of keep in mind when we're looking here at Keenan Allen. So hence they said, you know what, let's go out and draft Mike Williams. And now, unfortunately, like the Chargers seem to keep bitten in the butt, he might be done, for the season. There's still mixed reports there, so we'll see what really happens with Mike Williams. Tyrell Williams had a boom year. Ingram had a boom year. And then they have Travis Benjamin, who with a lot of teams, he's probably a nice number 2 or 3. He's like the 5th option there in LA. A lot of options at receiver. Tight end's a very good position. You have a battle there between Antonio Gates and Hunter Henry. Really nice job at what they've done surrounding Rivers with weapons.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we'll see about Keenan Allen. 12 touchdowns, 1,892 yards his first 2 years in the league, but he's only played 9 games since. So yeah, got to stay healthy. That's for sure. But he's a productive receiver when he plays. I mean, when he got hurt 2 years ago, he was on pace for like 1,500 yards. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So Hunter Henry. Let's get into him a little bit further. You got Antonio Gates. I mean, he's not getting any younger, some of these guys. So, Hunter Henry, do you like his potential moving forward?
I do, and because of the situation he's in LA, Hunter Henry is very similar to Antonio Gates is, and they're both that move tight end, the guy who's not really going to be an inline blocker. I mean, they do because they have to, not because they want to. So, with where the Chargers were drafting when they had Henry, I'm sure it was one of those things. They sat down, they made their big board, and then they got to the pick, and they looked around the room. They said, wait, is Hunter Henry still available? No one's drafted him? Okay, yeah, actually, you know what? Let's go get him. Let's go get him. I don't think it was necessarily that was something a big need for them, but best player available was a great situation. So Hunter Henry, he's in a good spot to kind of develop, and probably not this year, but definitely next year, he'll be the starting tight end for the Chargers. He might even take the job away from Antonio Gates this season.
Yep. All right, offensive line now. So they bring in Russell Okung. I'm looking at this line. It's not good.
It's not good. They gave up 36 sacks last year, and over Rivers' career, he's been sacked 362 times.
Ooh.
I mean, you got to wonder, does Rivers almost just like getting hit in the mouth? Because he just gets pummeled every year. I feel bad for the guy. Now, they brought in Russell Okung, which is a slight upgrade from your boy King Dunlap. Not much. But, I mean, it's not a good situation there. So they have Matt Solison. I know I probably butchered that.
Yeah, Matt Solison.
Yeah, Solison. He was their best offensive lineman last year. Okay, Spencer Pulley, he's a starting center. But here's the problem. What I loved when we were standing there at the draft, Adrian, I said, damn, the Chargers crushed it with their first 3 picks. Elite level receiver, and they got the best 2 interior pass blockers in the NFL, or in the NFL draft last year. And then Lamp got hurt, and he's out for the year with an ACL. So now we're sitting here, and we're talking about, hey, Doug Freeney, you're going to step in, and now you're going to have to replace, Fluker. So there's a lot of flux there. It's a real shame that Lamp got hurt because he was the best offensive lineman in the draft coming out.
Yeah, it really is a shame because I love Lamp. I love Lamp. I do. I love Lamp.
Yep.
So it really hurts the O-line. I mean, there's nothing here. It really isn't.
There's not. This is another bad offensive line in the NFL. One of the worst in the NFL. The only thing they get lucky by is Phillip Rivers is a tough son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Coming back. But you know what? A lot of NFL quarterbacks probably wouldn't be able to stand up to the pounding that Phillip Rivers has.
Yeah. But, yeah, you're right, though. I like the acquisitions and Feeney, too. Dan Feeney.
Yeah.
Mentioned him as well. All right, let's move on to the defense. We probably should have focused on Joey Bosa a little bit earlier, but talk about him now. What makes him so special?
Joey Bosa came in with a skill set of not just one pass rush move, but a secondary move and a third move. And I talked about this with you and me off air before, Adrian, about edge rushers. You look a lot of times, guys with the NCAA, they can get by on maybe 1 or 2 moves. Joey Bosa came in with an arsenal of moves. So it was a little bit of a surprise when the Chargers went up and drafted him last year. A lot of people didn't think that was going to be the pick. But look at what the front seven is there in Los Angeles. It's one of the most underrated. I mean, you look at what they have. They're trying to out-Bronco the Broncos. They're trying to out-Chief the Chiefs in getting really good corners, really good edge guys, and figuring out everything else with good players too. So between Bosa and Ingram, there's capable of 15 to 20 sacks right there, which is a very, very good production from your edge rushers in that 3-4 defense.
Yeah, and they're also moving to a 4-3. So you got Gus Bradley, former coach of the Jaguars. Now he's with the Chargers as a defensive coordinator. So hopefully the defense looks a little bit more like Seattle.
I think it will. I mean, I think Joey Bosa, honestly, he was wildly productive as a 3-4 defensive end. I think he'll be even more productive as a 4-3 defensive end. So I think that really helps Joey Bosa, which is really scary for the NFL.
Yeah. Joey Bosa had 10.5 sacks and he missed the first 4 games of the year.
Yeah, that's pretty freaking scary.
What? So, yeah, because where are my D-line rankings? Hold on. Because I had Joey Bosa at number 3 at 3-4 DN. I had him really, really high. And I normally don't put like second-year players that high, but I did with Bosa. So
and here's the thing: from an offensive line perspective, when you have a 3-4 defense, if you know or if you get to a situation where you don't think that outside backer behind the defensive end of 3-4 is rushing the D gap, what that allows is that can allow your tackle to get a wider kick set to protect the D. And then it can allow your guard to take a little deeper gap drop to the C and your center move to your B. Essentially, you're really sliding your line that way. So you can get by on that against a 3-4, but when you go to a 4-3, now you add in another interior pass rusher next to Bosa, and now you're not necessarily going to have as much help from the guard. So I think this really helps. I'm curious to see how Ingram did. He was franchise tagged. Historically, the Chargers have not been a team who really wants to spend big money on players. I hope they do here because that's a really nice tandem there of edge rushers.
Yeah. The kid that stood out to me his rookie year, but he's kind of fell off since, Jeremiah Attaochu. I believe he was like a second-round pick for them. I don't know how many sacks he had his rookie year, but he was always getting to the quarterback, it seemed like. But just I don't know, hasn't really been the same since. So, yeah, we'll see about him. Interior, you got Brandon Mebane and Corey Liuget, so that's pretty good too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, pretty good interior there too. And then what's nice is then that allows your linebackers to run around free a little bit more. Yep. Denzel Perryman was a guy they drafted out of the U, and he is an undersized middle backer. So I've always thought that him in a 3-4 would probably hurt him a little bit because he probably has to bang with more oncoming unblocked guards. So moving that 4-3, having 2 nice inside inside interior defensive linemen certainly should help him. Had a nice 72 tackles last season. And then they have Dartavius Brown, who was a 5th-round rookie, and he had almost 80 tackles.
He was good.
Yeah, I mean, right there again, this all goes back to a very, very underrated major. We just name-dropped really easily 6 of the 7 front interior linemen, or interior 7 for the defensive group for the Chargers. Very, very nice defensive front 7 there.
Yeah, Kyle Manuel too. So, yeah, so it's good all the way around. It really is. All right. Well, do we want to focus on linebackers a little bit more, or do we want to move on?
Good. Let's go back to the DBs now.
All right, let's go back to the DBs. Let's do it. Okay, I want to focus on Jason Verrett.
Yeah.
I talked last show Chris Harris maybe being the most underrated corner in the NFL. I lied. It's Jason Verrett.
Jason Verrett is a wildly athletic corner. Now he's coming back from an ACL. So when I look at Verrett, I think for a lot of people who maybe don't know him and maybe are thinking more fresh, I think a lot of Adoree Jackson and his athletic skill set. Verrett is still very physical. I think he's way more physical than Adoree Jackson, but that's not saying much. But Verrett is wildly athletic, and if you really want to see his ability, watch him track the ball and watch him come off of the first receiver and come downhill and kind of get number 2. So think about a offensive pattern. We have twins right, and we get a vertical from number 1 and out from number 2. Verrett does a really good job at breaking and coming downhill. I'm a big Jason Verrett fan. Hope he comes back healthy from that ACL injury.
Yeah, really tough, really scrappy kind of player. And that blazing speed and athleticism really kind of makes up for his, kind of undersized kind of, features. So, yeah, like Jason Verrett and Casey Hayward, too. What do you like about him?
Well, Casey Hayward, to me, Adrian, he's going to be my most underrated guy here in the Chargers and maybe one of the most underrated corners. He actually led the league in interceptions last year with 7. So, Hayward, again, we talked about what the Broncos do. We talked about what the Chiefs do. Chargers have the same pieces. They have 2 really damn good corners. Now, the Broncos have 2 top 5 corners, but I don't think it's a stretch to say the Chargers have 2 top 10 corners in the NFL, which is still better than 90% of the teams in the NFL. So, really, really nice tandem they have there. Now, the question then, when we get back to the safeties, that's kind of where we're getting to a little bit more of a situation. I as a Baltimore Ravens fan, I'm obviously thrilled they have Eric Weddle. But if they still had Eric Weddle, that defense would be flat out nasty this year. So we're looking here. I'm going to completely butcher this name. So Chargers fans, I'm sure I'm going to hear you in the comment section. So my bad. Jahleel Addae, the 4th-year strong safety.
Just let me say it. Jahleel Addae.
Jahleel Addae, okay? 4th-year strong safety. He's coming off the best year, and he had a pretty solid year last year. We just got to see that continue to come forward. And then Dwight Lowery, he's a below-average, free safety. I mean, he's 31 years old. There's a reason that you got him where you did. Now, the guy I'm going to circle here, Adrian, and I loved him coming out of the draft. I know you did too. Desmond King.
Oh, yeah.
Where is Desmond King going to be? I'm still blown away, by the way, that he was a 5th-round pick.
Oh, that was ridiculous. Like, it was the 3rd round of the draft, and I wanted the Eagles to take him.
Oh, my God. Go back. For anyone who doesn't know who this guy is, watch the Michigan-Iowa game, and you would believe that Desmond King should have gotten the attention that Peppers did, because King was unbelievable in what he did. Now, his stature is a little slimmer, so he might come down and play a nickel. And if he plays a nickel corner, those are 3 damn good corners. I'm very curious, can Desmond King move to free safety? Because if he can, that would be a very, very nice project situation for the Chargers, and that defensive back group gets really, really good then.
When I was at the NFL draft luncheon, I talked to Charles Davis about that very question, actually, because, one of my first questions was like, yeah, who do you think are the most underrated cornerbacks, coming out? And he mentioned Desmond King, and I was like, and then he was also talking about how he thinks he might be a better safety in the NFL than cornerback. So there you go. That harkens to your point right there.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly has the ability, and I think the nice thing is they kind of have a stopgap situation here with Dwight Lowery being that starting free safety, letting King kind of develop. And the nice thing is this kind of gives a year for King to play a little nickel and kind of maybe be the number 2 free safety. And that way, if and when they move on from Lowery, or if and when King takes that starting spot, he's not forced into the fire right away.
Yeah. All right, who's on the hot seat in L.A.? I almost said San Diego.
No, I think we've been. I don't think we've said San Diego once, which
we've done a really good job. I thought I'd do it at least twice. I haven't done it.
So too.
Yeah,
I got 2 guys here. Okay, so I'm gonna start with Russell Okung. Starting there at the left tackle. I have him because this is his last shot to prove that he's an NFL starting lineman. If it doesn't work out this next year, he's no longer an NFL starting lineman, and he's just going to play the rest of his career as a backup. So I have him there. The other guy I have is Antonio Gates because he's on a contract year. I think in contract years, especially when you get older and older and you have a young up-and-coming tight end, Hunter Henry, that the Chargers drafted in, and honestly, his numbers were very, very similar to Antonio Gates. So it's not really a stretch to say this is the year that Antonio Gates becomes the number 2 tight end. So those are my 2 guys I have in the hot seat there in LA.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of one. I really don't have one because I was thinking Keenan Allen, like that was like the first name that kind of came to my mind, but I think he has signed an extension, correct?
Yeah, 2020. So it's hard to put him on the hot seat.
Yeah. See, if he hadn't signed that so my instincts were right. He has signed an extension. Because if he hadn't, this would be a perfect candidate for it because obviously he can't stay healthy.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to look at the roster. I'm going to try and come up with one. I got nothing. You kind of mentioned the good one was Okung. So
yeah. I'll kind of switch here and I'll go underrated. And I already mentioned him, Casey Hayward, man. I mean, he's another one of those corners, doesn't get the attention that he deserves. He's really, really good. Like I said, probably not a top 5 cornerback in the NFL, but he's in that 6 to 10 range, and he's really darn good. Jason Verrett's very good too. I just think Casey Hayward's a little bit better at this point in his career.
Yeah. I'll go Verrett. I mean, well, that's not really fair because I already said he was underrated. I'll pick another one. Hold on. Melvin. Dude, this whole team is underrated. Melvin Ingram's underrated. Yeah. Jaleel Addae's underrated. Kyle Manuel's underrated. Jatavis Brown's underrated. Joey Bosa isn't. He's a beast.
No. Yeah, I think that's a fair one, Adrian. I think Melvin Ingram being underrated is certainly fair. I think you're going to kind of see something that, people know how good Justin Houston is in Kansas City. They don't maybe fully understand how stable Tamba Hali is and Dee Ford. Similar situation here in LA. Everyone knows how good Joey Bosa is. People don't really give the full attention to Melvin Ingram that he has deserved.
Yeah. I'm trying to see. So, by the way, when I did my rankings, I forgot that San Diego was moving to a 4-3. So I have Melvin Ingram as my sixth 3-4 outside linebacker. So I'll run my top six real quick. So Von Miller, Justin Houston, Jamie Collins, Chandler Jones, Whitney Merciless, Melvin Ingram.
I think that's fair. Yeah. I probably would have put Jamie Collins a little lower than the rest, only because he didn't have as productive of a year. Now he was obviously in transition, so I see where you're coming from, though. I think those are all fair names to drop in there.
So there you go. All right, fantasy player.
So my fantasy guy is going to be a situational fantasy guy, and I say that because if you're in a keeper league and you're in the later half, draft Hunter Henry. Draft him, because, again, understand this year he's probably not going to put up, elite tight end numbers. But Antonio Gates isn't getting younger. He's in a contract year. I could see Antonio Gates retiring this after the season, and Hunter Henry just becoming that guy. So if you can get Hunter Henry and one of your last couple round picks, draft him now, all of a sudden he could be a top 10, starting tight end, not this season, but next season in the NFL. Not a stretch for him to be a top 10 tight end this year either. So I would say Hunter Henry is a nice pick for you, especially if you're in a keeper league.
If Keenan Allen can stay healthy, there's a pick right there. So
yeah,
he's outstanding. All right, we did predictions already. We've covered everything actually. So anything else you got to say about the Chargers before we head out?
Just protect Phillip Rivers, guys. Just do it because you are pissing away an unbelievable quarterback if you just keep letting him bang around back there. If you guys can, if San Diego, damn it, we were so freaking good.
God damn it, Brendan. God damn it. We were flawless.
We were. As long as they can protect Rivers, this team can be very, very good. This team could be a wild card contender. I have them at 8-8, just outside of it, but it's not a stretch to say they could be a wild card team.
Oh, by the way, before we head out, there is a question I got to ask you. Now, this is unrelated to San Diego. I did it. Unrelated to well, I didn't finish it. I said so I didn't. So I said half the word, so I half fucked up. But Brendan, what the hell are you doing in Jacksonville? So you retired, and now you're coming back?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what's best for me and my family right now. Obviously playing in the NFL is a dream come true, and we'll see how things go. No, I mean, look, if you're an NFL player and you have the opportunity, I don't blame you for playing as long as you can, as long as the body holds up. So, Brendan Albert, if you're thinking about playing the NFL, as long as your body's holding up, man, enjoy it, keep playing. But if the body's starting to give way, I understand why you'd want to retire.
So you don't want to come back? Is this? I'm getting the inside scoop right now from Brendan Albert.
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. There it is. Inside scoop right there. Brendan Albert, I'm Adrian Fedke. We're out. Deuces.
Take care, guys.